So excited to be here introducing Brent. As George said, UNC Asheville is one of our core partners, has been for years, and we really wouldn't be there without them. And the reason for that is my wonderful colleague, Brent Skidmore, who made that happen and is in very large part the reason that we're here today. You all know Brent. We bring him on stage all the time. We coax him on stage to talk about UNCA, about our community, and he takes a couple of minutes usually at the top of our program. And in that couple of minutes, he conjures real magic, and I'm tearing up talking about it because that is often the point in the morning where I do tear up. I shed some tears, and it's really extraordinary that he can do that he can step on stage and just riff in a way that hits you at your core. So we've talked about bringing him on stage for a full talk for so many years. I know that he is famous for bringing that magic in a lot of different arenas, certainly for his students, in his work bringing STEAM Studio to our community at UNC Asheville. Yes, the incredible STEAM Studio. In the incredible work he creates that you've seen that is truly singular in its vision. I would say also that he's known for incredible acts of generosity, and I have to tell a story. Justin was actually going to tell this story, but I think he was concerned about being too choked up. Is that right? Are you about to cry already? So our shop downtown was, there it goes, Brian, had its windows broken out in the aftermath of a late night protest a few years ago, and without being summoned, Brent texted, "I'm on my way, I'm bringing supplies." And he arrived within minutes in the middle of the night, downtown, in the midst of chaos, with plywood and tools, and himself set our shop right and set our hearts at ease. And that's just one of the many emblematic things that really represents his incredible character, incredible heart. By his works is he known, by his words is he known, Brent Skidmore. So excited to have you with us.
We might leave it there. Let's move it that way so we have to this way. Yeah, this way.
Well, I would ask how is everyone this morning, but I kind of got a sense of how everyone is this morning. Whoa. Yeah. And it's not, it's this too. I want to be clear. It's not me, it's us. I want to be really clear about that. I'm going to say a lot of times throughout this talk, I'm going to use I. It has nothing to do with my ego. Nothing that Brandy said or nothing I say beyond this point, I did any of this alone. And if I stayed in a place where I thought I was going to do it alone, I wouldn't be standing here. And that's the subject of another talk. So if you're sitting on your mirror, that's not how it works. Take it out. They don't work that way. If you don't have a mirror, you can make a mirror up, but if you have one in your hand, this is a good time to take it out. And the instruction goes like this. This thing, they said, if you push, which way do I push? I push. Which button do I push?
It's the big
one.
The big one.
Oh, that one. All right. So here we are. And I've been on this stage a million times before. Seems like a million. I'm so honored to be here again. And I have sometimes asked you to do this very brave thing. Close your eyes. Don't do it yet. Some of you are really quick to do that. And I really appreciate that trust. So take your mirror. Okay? If you don't have it, you can hold your fingers up in shape of a mirror. And if you don't do this, then the talk's going to go to shit. So you know. And it's a tiny mirror because I want you to focus on a tiny, tiny, tiny you. Do it. Focus on that part of you. It could be any part. Now, if you're brave enough, close your eyes. And so everything from here on out is going to be referenced that tiny you. Referencing that tiny you. So breathe into the tiny you. Breathe into whatever and whoever you are today. Welcome the depth of gratitude that we can feel in this room. And welcome the love that is here. You might even take your eyes and open them and look back at the mirror at that point. Close them again. Or maybe in contrast, welcome the fear, the absolute shake you to your core because you don't know what is to come. Oh, and I saw a smile when I said that. How wonderful. And then particularly welcome the sadness that is your loss. Our loss. The world's loss. And welcome all and any of your memories and your journey to getting it. And certainly welcome our sacred time together. Okay, talk's over. Hang on to this, because we're going to need this again, okay? So this talk is dedicated to my mom, who's living with frontal temporal lobe degeneration. Ha! Yes, sorry about that. But as you say things, sometimes I feel them. I'm sorry. This talk is dedicated to my mom, who's living with frontal temporal lobe degeneration. She turned 78 last Sunday. And it seems as though I'm watching her just pass, just drop off. Sometimes referred to as Pick's disease, and he was a contemporary of Alzheimer's. It seems as all of her trauma actually has stacked up. It got to the spot and just folded out on her. The experience has made me wonder and often think about how we love ourselves enough, or do we love ourselves enough? And do we ever ask or believe that we're worthy of someone else's time? I'm not sure she ever did. And so everything I share today is a journey, my journey, with her involved. She's actually a big player. And how I got to a place of self-love. So this was prom 1964. And they were born in the same hospital about 6 months apart. I'm not sure they knew that. But at a young age, he lost his mom. And he's one of the hardest working dudes I know. And he's one of the kindest guys I know, actually. That's my father, son. She spent her childhood actually yearning for a father. She didn't see a father until she was 23. At her birth, her biological father was not there, did not come. And this is what has haunted her whole life. And I'm at least, I don't know, maybe there's another generation, maybe there's 7 more generations of ancestors in front. But I'm at least the 3rd generation of a shared trauma with her and my grandmother, who was a severely undiagnosed bipolar. So these two, they were never given lessons on self-love. We know this. It wasn't a real popular thing then, I don't know. At least it wasn't where they were going up. I'm positive that they were never taught to understand the perfection of their self at birth and the miracle of their self. Where are you on this journey to self-love? Don't put that down yet. I still need that. So this is, I was going to say that talk's not funny, but this is kind of funny. Fast forward 1 month, May, July well, somewhere May, June, I guess, because you got June in there between. It was probably hot Ohio Valley stickiness on a car similar to this car in the back seat called the rumble seat. I became living proof that the withdrawal method does not work. That's right. While doing their very best, two 17-year-old lust-filled children made me. So imagine their innocence in knowing as they shared a version of love that was theirs, you know? And in looking at each other in those moments, they were mirrors for each other. I believe this, man. Reflecting back, there had to be something going on there, right? But here's what I like to really get wild with. Is imagine the possibility of love they've never experienced. Right? A moment of belonging, maybe of self-love, maybe a dream they had. But when I get super damn crazy edgy, I'm like, whoa, what if they saw me? Yeah, imagine they could see me. My mom never finished high school. She was one of the most talented people I've ever met. And she had a full ride to the same place I got my undergraduate that I did not know about until I finished my graduate degree. So while doing their very best, they chose me. They chose me. They chose me. Because it was 1964. They could have done otherwise. But what's happened actually in my journey is I realized the power of saying those words, that they chose me. What the hell? If I had that script on my worst days, I would have had worse days. But I didn't. So this little boy grew up. That's my dog Patches, by the way. But he grew up to forget he was perfect. He grew up to be in that. Go back, because that's not the long one. He grew up to be in that triad of criticism that my grandmother was so imprisoned by. God rest her soul. And there was a thing called the Vietnam War going on. I know some of us were alive during that. I don't linger on this, but I let you know that as a tiny child, there was stuff around me going on that was not right. Just like right now. And it's hard to talk about, actually. It's still hard to talk about. This is Bloody Sunday, one month after I was born. So I took myself there 2 summers ago, and I highly recommend you take your ass to Montgomery. And feel into what is there. Feel into what is still happening in the world. I feel somewhat healed, but I'm still shook by the hatred of people toward the other and toward the stranger. And now I live in this place of contrast where I'm looking to meet another stranger. So I had to visit here. No, it wasn't unique for me as a small child, and specifically a white child who had privilege just by looking like I was and who I am, to experience things like this. But it dropped into my core, and if you haven't looked at it, it's in your core too, somewhere. So I had visions of this. This is my hometown, outside my newspaper. The Ku Klux Klan and the state troopers. So no, it wasn't unique, but it scared the hell out of me as a kid. So these events, the spaces, were experience of deep conflict inside my little boy self. Combined with that triad, what happened is I just lost confidence in anything safe that was emotional. Maybe that resonates with somebody in the room. So to get to where I could be in service to love, I've had to go back. I've had to take hold of a tiny boy over and over again. Over and over again. got him out last night. So I ask you, are you tending to your younger self? Who is holding you? Can you hold yourself? And would your younger self welcome visit from your now self? My suspicion is that it would. Well, the talk could be over if that's all you ever heard. Then it turns to you. This is about a journey to self-love. I forgot to tell you the trigger warnings. I'm going to talk about death and dying. I've already screamed once. Sorry I didn't tell you I was going to do that. I might cry, you might cry. That's already happening. But I want you to know that everything from this point forward in the talk is about looking for the next miracle. Right? It's about looking for the next miracle. I can't look at someone because I know you know what I'm talking about. It's about looking for the next miracle in service to someone. And you know what I'm talking about, those of you in the room that are in service. Maybe that's everyone. Kind of get the sense of this group. You see, since 2013, I've been working on transforming and changing. Because I'm not sure you know it or not, but I've not always been the guy you know and love today. Story for another talk. It hasn't always been like this. And if you only leave with one thing, just one thing. My life has radically changed when I begin to think of you and everyone else as divine. And me as divine. So backtrack, get myself to the place where I can hold all of you as babies. And feel into the space where you're a miracle at your own birth. I'm set free knowing that if we did that right now, if we all just closed our eyes and grabbed the hold, right? What can change? How are we doing? It's supposed to be black, don't panic. But the notes are here, but I think I know this one pretty well, actually. So it was in 2018. So remember 2013, started on this journey? Thank you, sister, in the back room. I was finally at a place like I am right now. Because I'm standing in front of you all, and you're taking your
On 5.
and you're looking and listening to me. And I'm so honored. So honored. So I was finally in a place in 2018 where it happened. I spent
On
5
5.
years going out like this guy. And then I felt deserving of love. Whoa, well, that's a different shift. It's literally like walking out of the house and the sky was totally different. It was like, it wasn't a switch that turned on, but I definitely was aware of the sensory difference. And it's because, I'm going to say it again, I got him out, I backed him up, and I held him. And I just kept telling him what he needed to hear, what he wanted to hear. Little boy me. And then I saw Jonah. Oh. And then I had to get like a much bigger mirror. Because what happened, I was in Ginger and Scott's backyard. I'm glad they showed up. I told Scott, I was like, glad you're showing up because I'm going to mention your backyard. And there it was. Because I now have this alignment, I could see it. And there it was in her. Mirrored back to me was access to all things love. Right, Patty? Yeah, right? All things service. Right? And all things divine. It was right coming back at me. So in 2020, a couple years forward, on one of our first dates, because it took us a while from that 2018 to 2020. I don't know if y'all knew that or not, but we had to wait. I was in the house and I said, well, who's the bearded guy? Because there were pictures of this bearded dude I didn't know in the house, you know? And I hear it from the other room. I remember it was from the other room. And I was just like, yeah, that's how it was, because you're not making that shit up. That's how it was. She said, well, that's Baba, she said. And then she paused again. Another. She said, well, he would likely tell you that the only difference between you and him is that you've forgotten your divine. And I was like, oh, I like this dude, actually. So, have you forgotten your divine? I hope not, but that's a question I came to ask you today. Have you forgotten that someone else is divine? Could you put something down and just remember them as divine? Also in 2020, I sat in a weekly men's group with an amazing dude, super talented Jimmy Landry. And he kept looking at me. He said, Brent, you got to be ready, he said, because I'm on a list to get a new heart at Duke, and I'll need you to be helping me when that happens. Stop crying. And Jimmy in that year taught me so much about living in the present moment. And then he did this fucking crazy, amazing thing. He wrote a song to his old heart that he was going to get taken out from his new heart. And then he sang it to us. But then he died for that special day. And that had a huge effect on me. And you. Never know, it's going to be sitting in the front row, by the way. So a month later, in 2020, it seems I became a death doula through the miracle of 2 men with glioblastoma. The street really exists. It's in Hendersonville. Now I find myself more alive, like coming out of my body, and my soul completely aligned when I'm in service. In that space, holding sacred space for others, strangers, friends, now, it seems. But this is what I want to ask you. Imagine with me if we're all ready, and we know how to do this. Just imagine, you don't have to do anything. It's not like we have to turn a switch. We know how to hold someone in their last days, supporting their every wish, longing for whatever they want, and loving them like never before. We know how to do that. Imagine that we have every skill needed. Nothing is missing. Because it's as simple as maybe all we have to do is remember that. Lean into each other because we know. Like my friend Tracy did. She texted, can you build David's casket? You saw what I made. Not very square, not very brown, not made out of pine. And I said, of course. And I had no earthly idea of what I'd said yes to. David and Tracy were a model couple to me when I was not in a model couple. So 2 days went by and I intensely worked listening to his music, which I don't like actually. At all. I listened to it as loud as I could play it. And I tried to this is where it got really edgy, I tried to get in their love actually. Like physically, could I be in their love while I was making this thing? And it was one of the most amazing experiences. And this simple pine box actually then became the most important thing I'd ever made. So fast forward 5 months, when I met the stranger Ethan Hollis Sisser, born in 1984. I'd never been with anybody that could presence themselves like this. And he was in excruciating pain. And that night, when we lay down together, and I'll say this over and over until my death, I asked Joni because I was so taken. I said, were we just in the presence of God? One word, she says, absolutely. You see, we live in a culture, y'all know a lot about our culture, but the one thing I want you to know today is that we live in one that denies us of our death. Takes it away. So if you go back to the perfect baby, you go back to the perfect end, they're supposed to be ours. No one wants to be denied of their beautiful death, their beautiful birth, the miracle of their birth, and we don't want anyone denied of their death. Because we covered you're a miracle, right? So as such, you should not be denied that. And I do not profess to know anything about what it's like to be dead or dying. I want you to know that. I don't know shit about that. But I have been in the space where people are doing it. And what happens is my body aligns with two moments in my life where I put my hands on two other humans, my son, as they came from their mother's shell. And I touched them first. So nothing goes like, shoop, like that does. And the story beyond this point is to prove that further. So Ethan told me he longed to live in community, and this is the one-on-one conversation, and now I take time to listen to people. What is it you want in these last days? Because this guy told me he wanted to live in community, and this thing happened. And in the ER that day for 12 hours, I asked him, have you considered dying in community? And I had no earthly idea what I was asking him. None. And after 48 hours together, because that was our intense friendship development, by the way. And by the way, when you talk about dying for 48 hours with someone who does die and is dying, you get to be friends pretty damn fast and close. And I became his medical advocate, which was kind of a weird thing, because we just made up this piece of paper in the hospital and signed it. He said something, I said something. But he had to leave Asheville, and this is where I got super sad, is that he had to leave Asheville for more surgery. He had to meet the world through social media, and he had to live and say and do things in a way that saved people's lives. Like full on. He went for it. I was like, whoa. And his angel mode kicked in. And he met another angel. The DT set they brow. Through social media. So say what you want to about social media, TikTok, and if you're dying, it might be a great place to say something to save somebody else's life. But, let's see, should we throw that one down yet? No, don't throw that one down yet, because 7 months later he came back to Asheville, because the DT had helped us get him back to Asheville, and we created this Sangha of people who held him. And in that space, well, he made the request, can you film my death and dying process? And she said yes. And Scott came along, Kirschenbaum said yes. All these people came together. This is actually, I want to explain this one. It's at Solace, which is a hospice here. And that's where a DT left her job during this time. And it's a beautiful place. And it's a medicalized space. But they told us, no, you can't do that stuff here, okay? We're not filming a guy dying in Solace. It took 7 layers, though, if I remember right, of approval. So we moved him elsewhere. And because this means so much, this is kind of what I'm feeling. You don't feel like you want to stand up for 2.5 minutes, or you want to stay where you are? Stand up. Stand up. Oh, God, stand up. It's like it's church. You watch out for those mirrors. I don't know what I'm supposed to do to make it play though. Oh look.
If I have more pain, I die later today or tomorrow. It's a win. Stay present with that.
So there's a soul, a dear, blessed, loving soul named Ethan Sisser. He's 36. He was diagnosed with glioblastoma. He started documenting his journey on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube.
Doctor said there's nothing they can do. The chemo can't help. Not doing the chemo, nothing will change either. What's going to happen next is I'm going to keep a smile in my heart.
One thing I would love is a strong support system. I feel like it could be beautiful for everyone involved.
I don't know if anybody's ever done it in terms of how you're doing it.
We all are born, we all leave the body, so why not do it in the most beautiful way possible?
I'm trying to medically find a way to where he can be comfortable in a home setting.
I am in the pump.
Can death be fun? I mean, that could be the most exciting journey ever.
I'm glad I had to stand up. It seems like the right thing to do. I have realized that I'm going over time. So what are we going to do? Keep going. So I built another casket. Wait a minute, while you're standing up, it works like this actually. I put it on my arm so I wouldn't forget. But it goes, I'm embodied, I'm empowered, I'm ecstatic, just as I am. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Ready? I'm embodied, I'm empowered, I'm ecstatic, just as I am. Okay, sit back on those mirrors, they work good on your body. Well, you can see we had a great time decorating this, and we had some really beautiful help that day. This is the Caroline Memorial Sanctuary at Ethan's gravesite. And I remember actually by looking at this is Cassie Barrett, who gave a talk, Creative Mornings. I think it was like 2016. It might have been my first space of kind of understanding what green burial was all about. Really beautiful talk. But Ethan's asked us to be different. Like every day, if I get it, why are you asking? Really? Again? To be different. Yes, to be different. And specifically be different as we hold each other in our death and dying. So it was born, and there are some people in this room, and I'm not going to mention them all by name, that have helped build and are building this thing called the Center for Conscious Living and Dying, near where we live in Swanville. And this is where I go to experience miracles. When I drive in the gate, I'm like, okay, what's next? But before that time, we had a little break in there. And my friend Richard, who I had no idea you would mention. No idea. That's awesome you mentioned that. My friend and mentor, 83 years old, he sends me a text and he says, I need you. It's like 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, okay, I'm in hot yoga, I'll get there. I got there. I said, for what? Like, kind of early. He said, I want you to bring that group of strangers to the house because I'm ready. And so he lived for 13 days doing what we call VSED. That's voluntary stopping eating and drinking. It's one option we have. It's not an option I would recommend alone. And he died with me on the 13th day at 5:20 in the morning. And that's him after we anointed him. Another fun story, by the way. Grace, 54 years old. I judged that she longed to be safe. To be safe. That's our parking thing. You know. This is pretty funny talk now I think about it. She longed to be safe. She longed to be held in what I felt like what I would call a trusted love. And I watched as the CCLD volunteers held her for 2 months in what I judged to be a trusted love. Oh yeah, there were complaints about how long? Why do we have to, As if you had a conversation with Grace and I, as someone else you're going to see dies that night, I'm talking about the crispy French fries that Grace gets while someone else is dying. But she stayed with us and she soaked in every last drop while she was there. And then I came over one Thursday night. She said, "No, I'm not going to watch the movie with you. I'm going to watch it with a DT." And I was like, okay. So I set her up in this room that I cannot describe how. It was like it was an obstacle course to set up. And so I set it up. 3 days later, after watching the movie, she opened the door and she passed. Some of you are friends with this beautiful soul right here. So after struggling her whole life, our friend Miranda was in an amazing place. And then she turned 50, and she got a huge, aggressive cancer diagnosis. What the fuck? This woman had worked so damn hard her whole life. So this past July, 5 sentences in the email. Last one is, "Can you help?" She's at mission. So Miranda told us how she wanted it to go down, and we committed to her. She happened to be the person the most imminent to die, so she made it into CCLD. And we held her in that space for 5 days. And in true Miranda style, as you can see, she did it her way. Due to her disease, Patricia was nonverbal. We only got a couple more. But I needed those. I don't really need those for Patricia. Due to her disease, she was nonverbal in 74, and she was originally born in Suriname. And early one morning, I fell totally in love with her in the summer, this past summer. And we started talking about green burial. We talked about her life. We talked about we both like to dance, and she liked to have parties and serve people. And then we talked about VSED. And she looked at me, she goes, well, she wrote it down. She said, "How long do you think it will take?" And I looked at her, I said, well, I didn't bring my crystal ball. I said, but looking at the calendar right now, I would not die on the 9th day because we're having this huge public grand opening at CCLD. And then she wiped the board and she wrote, she turned it around and said, "I love parties." So the miracle of Patricia's exit was that she died when? At 5 o'clock as we started the public grand opening. So she had twice as many people almost standing on the side of the hill, yelling her name into the air as she travels out. You can't write the script for these miracles. Here's another thing we do there. We light fires of intentionality. So if you decide, I'm ready, and you say, I'm going to go light my fire, I want to go light my fire, or I can't go light my fire, but can you go light my fire? We walk out, we light a fire, and there's a whole other group that holds that fire while this person passes. You want to talk magical, and you want to talk miracle. Be at a fire of intentionality with one person dying who it's not their fire, who has one eye, and someone happens to have a telescope to hand him to look at the bald eagle that's been there the whole time you've been there. And that story is like way deeper than the brief space I gave you there for. But just imagine if you ask me to light your fire, or I ask you to light my fire. This was the soul that was there. This is beloved Chris on his 65th birthday. And there wasn't a soul that met Chris, I guarantee, that didn't fall in love with this dude. An artist, educator, musician, deep believer in the ways of CCLD. He kept telling me this. Wow, this place is getting it right. He was evacuated. I think there were maybe some people here in that room that went through that trauma with him to get out of CCLD during Helene. But then he asked to, guess what? Return to CCLD to die. He passed 2 days later, alone, because I stepped out of the room to get his wife. And then someone kindly reminded him, he wrote down he didn't want anybody in the room when he took his last breath. I didn't read that, but yes, I got my ass out. And most recently, this is our beloved friend Matt Daniel. And what I was struck by is on the 20 days before he died, I went to the altar, and what is it? It's a little boy picture of Matt Daniel. Yeah. He struggled with cancer for 2.5 years. And I'm not going to go on other than to say one thing. He believes and believed in the power of love to transform, to heal, and magnify. And I watched in 20 days, as we were kind of in a hybrid situation there, as people showed up. What do you mean by showing up, man? I just realized it's not that damn complicated. Somebody takes charge of making the spreadsheet. People fill the spreadsheet out. And you show up with your open heart to be served. 3 steps. That's it. And you can grant anyone anything they want in their last days doing that. The formula doesn't have to change. But there's one thing that has to happen to have that happen. To be held this way, we have to feel worthy. Like I have to look at that and I have to say, I'm worthy of every bit of your time and every bit of your energy and your love. I have to look at Rebecca and say the same thing. You have to look at me and say that. It won't work if you don't do that. It works a little bit, maybe doesn't work as well as it could. Grab each other's hands. We're almost there. And y'all seem to be with me, I think, right? We must know that we are to hold each other in love to the absolute end. Just as you were welcomed, so shall you exit. I'm honored to be in service to all this love, these souls. And we're being asked to do it differently. They're all looking at us. Do it differently. Build a different death culture. One not filled full of medicalized spaces, but one filled with our own agency and love for each other. That's it. And I know it's not kind to keep people longer. I hope you texted them and said I'm going to be late. Or you Kate, thank you for coming, love you. But I don't do any of this alone. I told you that at the beginning. And I just want to spotlight a few things in here. So there are people in the room, there are men in the room that I've sat and circled with since 2013 in the Mankind Project. If you're that man, stand your ass up. And stay standing up when I ask you that. And then there are people in the room who are in service or staff to Journeyman Asheville. Stand your asses up. People who work at UNC Asheville here. I won't say asses again, like fencing. And then, it's a great institution. And then, of course, there are volunteers and staff from the Center for Conscious Living and Dying. Please stand up. Anyone on the film crew on Last Ecstatic Days or a supporter of the film, if you'd like to support the film in the next few days, please put my name on it, because I'm trying to do a match of about $2,000 if I can. Because we want to own the film so we can use it as a piece of our education at CCLD. And then last and certainly not least, anyone willing to be in service? Okay, don't raise your hand. I mean, even if you are in service. Joni's here. She has a project called the Love Project. And Jessica's here. I know Jessica's here too. She's always standing up. And we want you to know there are ways to connect. We're trying to make it easier. And specifically, we're trying to make it simple. And I know a lot of you are in service. And I'm in deep, deep gratitude for you holding me in love and caring for me.